Well, all right. Colossians. If you've ever played a Bible trivia game of some sort or another with a little kid, anybody in here ever done that? Like we used to do that a lot. We don't. It's been a while since I've worked with the little ones, and you know, one of the fallback positions sometimes is we just do a little Bible trivia, and it's funny that, to me anyway, that after about 4 or 5 questions, the little ones begin to kind of cheat, and so it doesn't matter really what question you ask. Like if you ask the question, what is the name of the 2 rivers that form the boundary of the Garden of Eden? You know, they'll say Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, they've kind of figured out that ultimately, you know, there's some way that you can make Jesus be the answer to pretty much any Bible question. And I actually think that's kind of cool. I wish that we could get back to that place where Jesus is the answer pretty much to any Bible question. And I know that sounds a little bit glib, maybe it sounds a little bit simplistic, but the truth of the matter is, and you guys have heard me say this on a pretty regular basis, I really feel like we've overcomplicated discipleship to the point where you have to have a PhD and several people who have been highly trained to kind of explain it to you. And yet, the interesting thing to me is that when Paul wrote to the church in Corinth, he made this statement. He said, look around you. This is John Dennis's paraphrase, but he said, look around you. How many PhDs do you see? And the point being, you don't have to be Einstein to figure this out. So I really believe that we've, and I think there are reasons why we've done this, which I won't go into at the moment, but I think we've overcomplicated it. I think that we have gotten our eye off of the real focus. We've been so busy expanding our domain and our influence, being the morality police. I am so, and you guys, those that were in Bible class this morning, heard me talk about this a little bit. I'm so tired of being tired of Christians thinking that it's their God-appointed role to run around and blow the whistle and throw the flag and say, you folks are, you know, doing it wrong. Where did we get that model? And I asked that to the group this morning. Where did we get that model? How many times, I challenge you, you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. How many times did Jesus blow the whistle and blow the flag? I know I get a little bit tongue-tied once in a while. But how many times did Jesus blow the whistle and throw the flag? And I mean, seriously, look at the Gospels with that in mind. How many times? To my knowledge, now, you know, there may be a couple of places that you might be able to say, well, I think he was kind of blowing the whistle here. But there's only one place at the very end of his ministry, and he's only talking to the hyper-religious when he says, woe to you scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. And I mean, you know, reads them, you know, the riot act, so to speak. So, other than that one moment in the ministry of Jesus, that wasn't his goal. He wasn't running around blowing the whistle and throwing the flag. I was thinking about my kids, and do you guys find, those of you who are parents, and I know this is Mother's Day, so this is, happy Mother's Day to those of you who, to whom that applies. I'm glad Tegan's here. And yeah. I was going to say, talking about siblings, and I was thinking, when I was putting the sermon together, I was thinking about the fact that I actually had one of my kids come to me and tattle on another one of my kids that the other kid was being a tattletale. Isn't that great? If you guys want to pay me $20, I'll tell you which one of my kids did that. But other than that, I'm going to keep it quiet. So we have that mentality for some reason that's our job, that we're supposed to go to God and say, you know what, Carter Price is messing up, God. Or better yet, we feel like God's appointed me to tell Carter Price that Carter Price is messing up. So we've kind of been the morality police and God's PR machine, and it's been up to us to elect the right people, which we're going to come back to in just a minute. Oh no, the preacher's going to get into politics. Defending our doctrine and condemning those who don't agree with us, and we talked about that some this morning. Arguing among ourselves. Guys, Satan has got to be laughing hysterically at this. I mean, it has no real good ending. So I want you to look with me at Revelation chapter 2. And I know this isn't Colossians, but I believe that the issue here is that the church has forgotten what the focus is. The focus is not expanding our influence. The focus is not building big buildings. The focus is not being the morality police. What is the focus? What is the point? Somebody said Jesus. See? I can sit down now. And the whole church said, Amen. To the angel of the church in Ephesus write. Watch this, guys. This is so critical. These are the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks among the 7 golden lampstands. What does that mean? And we could argue about that all day long. But here's the important thing right here. I know your what? Deeds. I know your deeds. Your hard work, your perseverance. I know that you cannot tolerate wicked men, and that you have tested those who claim to be apostles, but they are not, and you found them to be false. You've persevered and have endured hardship for my name, and have not grown weary. Does this sound like a really good church? I mean, so far, I'm ready to sign up. What's the problem? Huh? Verse 4, he says, I hold what? I hold this against you, that you've left your first love. So here's the thing. This church was running around doing all the right things, singing all the right songs, knocking on doors. I mean, they were being extremely busy. But they had completely lost a focus on Jesus. So I know that is a possibility. Did you guys see this in the grocery store? The Newsweek. I've got Time down there, but it wasn't Time. It was Newsweek. This was on the newsstand like three or 4 weeks ago, and I don't know if you can see this, but it says, "Forget the church, follow Jesus." And you know what's interesting is the response, from the group is kind of, well, yeah. I mean, I can understand that. And I picked this one up. I don't usually pick Newsweek up, but I picked this one up specifically because I know this is where a lot of people are. They are fed up, and rightfully so. Because they are so tired of the focus being on us expanding our influence and controlling people and money and real estate and etc. And the focus not being on Jesus. And I'm hearing this more and more. I mean, there is a big movement in our culture right now that says, I'm done with the church. Jesus is okay. That sounds like a Doobie Brothers song. Never mind. But some of you are too young to even know what that means, but I'll explain it later. So anyway, we've We've lost the focus. So when the church train leaves the track in the New Testament, and I mean everything after the book of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then the book of Acts, and then, you guys don't remember the song, Acts? Okay, well anyway, there was a song that goes Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and the letter to the Romans, etc. And everything after the book of John are letters that were written to churches who had somehow gotten off the track, including really, I think, probably the book of Acts, but that might be argued. But every time the church leaves the track, do you know what the Bible writer talks to them about? Every time. Work with me here. What's the answer to the... Jesus, that's right. Every time the church train leaves the track, the Bible writer says, hey, let me talk to you about Jesus. A good case to study, and this is just one of many, but the Corinthian church, which was proud, intellectual, immoral, and I mean that you look at the Corinthian church, it's intriguing to me that Paul calls them brothers at the very beginning. So how could you possibly be, a brother and act like that? The first thing Paul does is rebuke their division, which we talked about this morning in class. The second thing he does is rebuke the stupidity of their intellectualism. He says, you cannot be, now I know this is going to come as a shock to some folks, you cannot be smart enough to go to heaven. Paul basically says, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you're not that smart. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, the very first thing he says is, this is what I've decided. I am going to know nothing among you but... What? Well, why would he do that? Why would he say, I've determined to know nothing among you but Jesus Christ and Him crucified? What's the point? The point is the reason the Corinthian church was off the track is because they don't understand Jesus. They don't understand who Jesus was. Look at the Ephesian church. Look at the Colossian church. Every single one of these letters written to get a church back on track, and the focus every time is on Jesus in one way or another. Have you guys seen this superhero Jesus? I've been real tempted to buy one, just because it's so indicative of what I think Christianity has become in our culture. This guy up here is called the Buddy Jesus. I'm absolutely amazed at what people. Well, anyway, that's we have this inept Jesus that just isn't capable of doing things without our help. He really, I mean, the truth of the matter is, if Jesus doesn't have me on his team, it's probably not going to be a winning team this year. Isn't that just pathetic? Do you think God needs any one of us in here? And if that's the case, I mean, if his day tomorrow is going to be, a little off, if I'm not on tomorrow, he's not a God capable of saving me anyway. Jesus is not the poster boy for whatever cause we decide to champion. Turn over to Colossians 1. Let me show you the Jesus that Paul wants us to see. We're almost done. We're going to get out of here just about on time this morning. Oh, I was going to change this slide. Verse 15, talking about Christ. He is the image of the invisible God. And we're going to take these things apart and unpack them in the next few weeks. But He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by Him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. Now, see, we don't even believe this. I mean, I know we don't because I listen to us talk. We don't believe that God says through Christ, I'm going to put this guy on the throne. I'm going to set this authority up. We don't believe that. We believe that it's up to us. We believe that, you guys understand, I'm not suggesting that we don't need to be involved in politics, and I'm not suggesting that we don't need to vote. God help us, we need to vote. But we've also got to realize that the authorities that exist because God put them there. You say, how does that work? I don't know how it works. If I knew how it worked, I could probably write a Bible book. But I could write Scripture, but I don't know how it works. I just know the Scripture says Jesus is the one who sets up authority, whether thrones or powers or whatever. Invisible, visible, heaven things, earth things. It doesn't matter. Jesus is the one who sets them up. He created them. And why did He create them? This is real important. He didn't create them for you. He created them for His, that's right, Tim mouthed the words, for His glory. That's exactly right. This isn't about, I know it's going to come as a shock, but this isn't about you. This is about Him. Created through Him and for Him. He was before all things. In Him, all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. This is real important. A little picture we saw on the first slide. Forget Jesus, or forget the church, just go with Jesus. That doesn't work. And here's the reason it doesn't work. We're not talking, by the way, church as most of us think about church. This is my church. And then there's other folks down the road who have a church. We're talking about the church universal. God's people. Whoever that is. But you cannot divorce yourself from church and still be a disciple of Jesus. You say, well, I don't like church. Well, take that up with Him. But the truth of the matter is, He has put you in the church for a specific reason, which we're going to look at later. Part of it is just that He wants us to learn to get along with one another. Sometimes that's difficult, isn't it, in the church? To get along with one another? No? Am I the only one who has a difficult time getting along with people in the church? I'm sorry. Yesterday, Tim and I mowed the lawn. This isn't about us mowing the lawn out here. But I had to tell this story because it illustrated something that I thought was really important. First off, let me tell you that I know Tim well enough to know. He said, I'm going to be at the church building at 7 to mow the lawn. And I said, I'll be there to help you. And I know Tim well enough to know that turkey's going to get up at 6. And he's going to try to have the lawn mowed before I get there. Now, that really irritates me. that he acts that way. But let me tell you something. He you know where he got that model? He got that model from Jesus, who just a few hours before his crucifixion, is washing the feet of his disciples. And remember, Peter said, not my feet. And he said, if I don't wash your feet, you don't get to be a part of this. And he said, give me a bath then. You remember that? You remember that whole scenario? Jesus makes this statement. He says, and it's important to realize the context. The context is they're all sitting around saying, I think I'm going to get to be chief of state. I think I'm going to be chief of staff. I'm going to get to be, whatever. Now, they were all jockeying for some position in the Messiah's new, kingdom. And Jesus says, you guys want to be number one? Now, this is exactly what he says. He says, you want to be number one? You want to compete with one another? Compete and see who can be the best servant. Now that's what Jesus said. So, Tim's model, now see, it didn't turn out, he got up here at about 6 to mow the lawn and to snap it for me, so I wouldn't have any of the serving to do. And then something went wrong with his mower and he had to go back into town. Ain't God good? I love it. So anyway, we got the mowers unloaded and we started, and I'm riding along behind Tim on my mower, not on his. You understand? So I'm riding along behind Tim, and we're doing the combine kind of deal where he's up in front and I'm over staggered one row, and we're going along, and we've been around a couple of times, and I'm thinking, that knucklehead Tim, we've already been over this piece of ground. I mean, we've been mowing for 20 minutes and we're still on the same track, roughly. And I'm thinking, this guy's, there's something wrong with this guy. Finally, Tim pulls over, pulls the mower over, and I rode up beside him, and he said, I'm going to go out back and mow. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this guy? And he said, we're mowing at different levels. Well, here's what's going on. Now I understand what's happening. My mower is set at a different level than Tim's, and so when it's time for him to move over a notch, he sees my row's higher than his row, so he gets on my row and mows my row again. But because of where I'm at in the process, I can't see that that's what's going on. So Tim's thinking I'm a nut. I'm thinking Tim's a nut. And you know how we figured out the whole thing? We pulled the mowers over and talked about it. That's an amazing concept. Guys, this is Bible. This is a command from the Christ. He says if you've got something against your brother, on your way to church, pull the mower over and talk about it. Get the thing settled. And then go about, let me put it in modern day, 21st century vernacular. He's not interested in your worship if you've got a problem with your brother or your sister. So get it taken care of. I mean, this is the authority of Jesus. This isn't my authority. I'm not telling you. But the truth of the matter is, every one of you in here knows this. We've got to learn how to get along. Jim sang that song a little while ago. We're going to unpack this little section. I cannot wait. We're going to unpack this section in 1 Corinthians 1 or Colossians 1 verse 15 and following, starting next week, about him being the image of the invisible God. Basically, what that's going to say is this: and you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, but you want to see what God's like? Look at the way Jesus is. So, Jim, would you please step up here and lead us in the invitation song?